This is Prince Hanley coming to you with 100,000 watts of pure love. I want to talk to you today about the shooting, the massacre at Fort Hood, the largest massacre ever on any domestic U.S. military base, and carried out by a Muslim, a follower of Islam. No doubt about it, why he did it. In the Quran, in number 2-191, it says, "Kill the disbelievers wherever you find them." The Quran commands Muslims to kill unbelievers, and particularly Jews and Christians. It says to kill the disbelievers wherever you find them. Slay or crucify or cut off the hands and feet of the unbelievers, that they be expelled from the land with disgrace, and that they shall have a great punishment in world hereafter. Strike off the heads of the disbelievers, after making a great slaughter among them. In the Quran 9:124, it says, "Believers, wage war against such infidels as are your neighbors, and let them find you rigorous." If you actually study the Quran, you see it is not a peaceful religion. I've had several Muslim friends through the years, very close friends. Any Muslim that tells you that Islam is a peaceful religion is not a real follower of Islam, because the Quran tells Muslims to kill the unbelievers. Their whole goal is to establish Sharia law worldwide. And the Quran gives Muslims the privilege of lying, even about their faith, if it will help them and protect them. In the Quran, in 354, Allah is bragging by calling himself Khuru Makarin, which literally means the greatest of all deceivers. And he refers to himself with such title in Quran 8:30, 27, 50, 13, 42, 10, 21, and several others. So you need to wake up, world, and realize there's an enemy at your doorstep. Just so you have an idea of the teachings of the sacred books, so-called sacred books of Islam, I'm going to tell you some of the foolishness of the teachings. And I'm going to also tell you what the Quran says, because I want you to know that you're not safe if you have Islamic people running around loose in your country or in your neighborhood. My job is to tell you the truth, and the major media is not telling you the truth. When a gunman stands up and shouts, "Allah is great," and then shoots many of our servicemen, some in the back, don't tell me that was not premeditated. Actually, the man even cleared out his apartment before he did that. So let's start first with a comparison of Muhammad and the Jewish Messiah. The coming of Christ was predicted precisely by many prophecies, while the coming of Muhammad was not predicted at all. In the book of Micah, chapter 5, verse 2, which was written about 700 years before Messiah Yeshua came to earth, it gives the name of the town where Mashiach would be born, in Bethlehem of Yehudah. Yeshua, or Jesus, fulfilled 33 prophecies on the day he died. Yeshua lived a sinless life. Even his enemies could not charge him with anything without manufacturing lies. However, Muhammad said that Allah commanded him, "Say I'm but a man like yourselves." In Surah 40:55, it says, "Ask forgiveness of thy sins." The Quran never says anywhere that Muhammad is sinless. Look at his life. Look at his history. Yeshua, or Jesus, did many miracles. Muhammad did none. Israel's Messiah healed the sick, cast out demons, raised the dead, commanded the wind and the sea. And the Quran in many places mentions that Muhammad never performed a miracle. One such reference is Surah 17, verses 91 to 95. There are at least 20 passages in the Quran that tell when Muhammad was asked by people to perform a miracle, he either remained silent or said he didn't want to because he was a human being like any other. Yeshua was God, the Son of God. He was perfect God and perfect man. Muhammad was not divine. He was a child molester and finished the act of marriage covenant with a young girl at the age of 9. No record ever of Muhammad ever teaching, preaching, or writing about the love of God. The Quran never mentions the love of God. Neither is there any emphasis in Islam, the Quran, or the teachings of Muhammad about God's love for man, or vice versa. But Yeshua's life and the Scriptures reveal to man that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. Ask Muslims this: where does the Quran tell you that Allah loves you, and how Allah proves it? Ask Muslims where Muhammad tells them that Allah loves them, and how Allah proves it. Yes, the lifestyles of Yeshua, Jesus, and Muhammad are diametrically opposite. You can put God on one side and the devil on the other. I don't have time to go into all full teachings. We teach in the University of Excellence Islamic Studies. But I want to give you an idea because you're deceived by the major media. You don't really realize the purpose of Islam is to take over the world. And when they're in countries where they're not in power, then they'll deceive, make covenants, make treaties, anything they can. They'll lie until they can finally implement Sharia law or come into a bargaining position where they're more powerful than those they're bargaining against and then kill them. But I am going to take some time to show you the foolishness of the so-called sacred writings of Islam. Just a few of them. Muhammad did not know what Allah would do with him on Judgment Day. He said, "By Allah, even though I am the apostle of Allah, yet I do not know what Allah will do to me." In the Hadith, which is one of the so-called sacred books of Islam, like the Quran, it tells, if one sleeps and does not offer the prayer, Satan urinates in his ears. Narrated Abdullah, the Prophet said Satan urinated in his ears. It also talks about the miracle wings of a fly. It says, don't worry about drinking water with the fly in it, because while one wing has disease in it, the other wing has an antidote to that disease. In the Hadith, Bukhari, Volume 4, number 537, narrated Abu Hurairah, the Prophet Muhammad said, if a housefly falls into the drink of any one of you, he should dip it, because one of its wings has a disease, and the other wing has the cure. Muhammad instructed his followers to drink camel urine. The Prophet ordered them to go to the herd of camels and to drink their milk and urine. That's in the Hadith, Bukhari, Volume 1, number 234. Muhammad's answer to the question, why does a child resemble its father and why does it resemble its maternal uncle? In Bukhari, Volume 4, number 546, Allah's apostle said, as for the resemblance of the child to its parents, if a man has sexual intercourse with his wife and gets his discharge first, the child will resemble the father. And if the woman gets her discharge first, the child will resemble her. The Quran says that several young men and a dog entered a cave. The men and dog fell asleep for 300 to 309 years. When they awoke, they left the cave as young as they were before. Read the Quran, Surah 18, verses 9 through 25. Muhammad taught that Satan lives in the upper part of the nose at night. Therefore, one must clean his nose 3 times before prayer to clean the devil out. You can read that in the Hadith, Bukhari, Volume 4, number 516. In the Muslim, Volume 3, numbers 5113, Roman numeral, chapter D, CCC, X11, tells us that non-Muslims have 7 intestines. It says, a believer eats in 1 intestine, in other words, a follower of Islam, whereas a non-believer eats in 7 intestines. In the Hadith, Muslim Volume 1, numbers 863, Roman numeral chapter CLXX111, if you pray with your eyes lifted up toward heaven, they will be snatched out of your head. The Hadith tells us if you eat garlic or onions before you pray, Allah will not hear you if you have bad breath. It says, whosoever has eaten garlic or onion because of hunger or otherwise should not come near our mosque. Hadith Bukhari, Volume 1, number 812. See also numbers 813 to 815. According to Muhammad, all yawning is from Satan, the devil. In the Hadith, Volume 4, number 509, narrated Abu Hurairah, the Prophet said, yawning is from Satan. I don't have time to go through everything, but this one ought to really thrill the women listening. According to Muhammad, hell is populated mainly by women. The Hadith, Bukhari, Volume 1, number 28, Muhammad said, I was shown the hell fire, and that the majority of its dwellers were women who were ungrateful. And then we read that Muhammad was a white man, in the Hadith, Bukhari, Volume 1, number 63. And I told you about Muhammad's child bride of 9 years old, engaged to him at the age of 6, the Hadith, Bukhari, Volume 5, number 234. The Prophet was engaged to me when I was a girl 6 years old. I was playing in a swing with some of my girlfriends. Unexpectedly, Allah's apostles came to me in the afternoon, and my mother handed me over to him. At that time, I was a girl of 9 years of age. The Hadith, Bukhari, Volume 5, number 236, the Prophet married Aisha when she was a girl of 6 years old and consummated that marriage when she was 9 years old. My friend, there's so much, I don't have time to go through it, but study. You need to know what's happening. We lost several of our wonderful military men, murdered by a Muslim, a regular Muslim, and a psychiatrist at that. Tell me he didn't know what he was doing. Look at the facts. They're deceiving you, my friend. The overall goal of Islam, as I said, is to take over the world. And one final note. When Muslims pray to Allah, they're praying to a non-entity. They're praying to the name of a God who is no God. Jehovah God, the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is not Allah. Don't let anyone deceive you. Allah is not the name of the true God. Muhammad is the dead false prophet of a non-entity called Allah. There is no being with distinct and independent existence named Allah except that which is made up. The name Allah was the false deity worshipped by the cult of the moon god in Arabia, and this was long before Muhammad was born. The only reason the name Allah is used in the Arabic translation of the Holy Bible is that it wasn't translated until the 9th century A.D. By this time, Islam, the religion started by Muhammad, had used the name Allah for about 200 years, and to be polite, the translators used that name. The translators actually gave in to political and religious pressure because they feared that Muslims might kill or harm them. Political correctness in the 9th century, my friend. And let me close with this. I love the President of the United States, Barack Obama. I pray for him, his wife Michelle, and their daughters Malia and Sasha. I pray for them every day of my life. But I've got to tell you the truth, and I hope he's listening. Barack Hussein Obama, you are a sorry excuse of a commander-in-chief of the military forces of the United States of America. After the shooting at Fort Hood, you went ahead and lightly engaged in conversation and pleasantries at a meeting. And only after several minutes did you even lightly mention the Fort Hood incident. You should have canceled the meeting. And our Congress is sick. Instead of canceling Congress, they were in the halls of Congress meeting to force through socialized medicine. What a sick country the United States is, my friend. A long way from the founding fathers. And I want to speak to you now, my friend, to my Jewish brethren, to my Christian friends, to those who name the name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. You need to pray for the country of the United States. You may live in Israel. You may live in Brazil. You may live in China or Japan. You may live in Ghana or Kenya. You need to pray for the United States. Our country has almost literally been wrecked by a president and commander-in-chief who is a deceiver. He lies, he doesn't keep his word, and who has allowed communists and Marxists to be in the center of power in the White House and give him advice. Yes, my friend, the shooting at Fort Hood was a very sad incident. It was done by a Muslim, a follower of Islam, and it's just a sign, just a very small, tiny, tiny tip of the iceberg of what's coming. Prepare yourselves. Ask God to fill you with the Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of God. Get in the Scriptures. Read. Share the love of God with your friends. My friend, I hate to bring a message like I did today, but if you love somebody, you tell them the truth. Pray for the President of the United States. He is sadly deceived. He's a weak man, and he is a sorry excuse as a commander-in-chief of the military forces of the greatest nation on earth. This has been your friend, Prince Handley, coming to you with 100,000 watts of pure, truthful love. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai.